Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be going over building an initial Next.js project only using AI. So through vibe coding, we're going to be building a Next.js project for our project, VibeCademy.ai. This is a project that we're just getting started, that we're planning on building the MVP in under a month or two. And what this project is it's going to be a platform where people are able to learn how to vibe code, and people are going to be able to earn certifications related to things related to vibe coding like Codex, let's say Claude, Cursor, MCP servers, all sorts of stuff, right? So we're building a platform where people are going to be able to learn how to vibe code. So with that being said, I want to ask you guys to do three things. Like, subscribe, and join the Discord. There's a link to the Discord down in the description below. But let's just kind of dive in. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a Next.js project, and we're going to be using it. And I've actually, today, you can see up in my goals behind me, there is a goal up here that is ship bridgemind.ai. So bridgemind.ai, you guys are looking at it now. This is a website. It's on our project list, and it was shipped today, and it just has one prompt in it. So most of the prompts are going to be free to get started, but as you can see, I have our first prompt here in the vibe coding prompt library for bridgemind.ai. And how this works is you can see the prompt here and see what's going to be passed into the AI. Obviously, it's a pretty decent prompt, but all you have to do is click copy prompt and enter the project name. So the project name for this, I'm going to be using VibeCademy-UI. And I'm just going to then click save and copy. And then all I have to do is I have to pull up a terminal. And I already have a VibeCademy directory. So what I did is I just created a VibeCademy directory on my desktop of my computer. And then I CD'd into that directory. And now I launched Claude Code in that directory. And I actually have Opus 4.1. And I have Opus 4.1 turned on. And we're just going to now copy and paste that prompt that we had. Let's see. It's a decently long prompt because it shows a ton of different examples. So let's see how many characters so like 471 lines, so a pretty decent prompt. But all we have to do, which is nice, is we just have to paste that prompt in, and we have to let Claude do its thing, right? We have to let Claude now work. And what's going to happen is Claude's just going to go through, and based on this prompt that we dropped in, it's going to create a Next.js project for us with the best practices that I implement as a developer into my workflow. So the prompts that I created, I structured it and basically gave it the prompt and the references in accordance with how I like to structure my Next.js projects. So there's a ton of different ways to structure Next.js projects, but this one is really just focused on, if I can zoom in a little bit here, let me zoom in for you guys. You guys can see that your Next.js project is now set up with Pages Router, not App Router. I actually like to use Pages Router instead of App Router, so that's just a personal preference for me, but that's in this prompt. Then it's going to use TypeScript, Tailwind CSS with ShadCN. It's going to have a dark light mode toggle, a simple clean structure, and then one simple home page, because the purpose of this prompt is not to build all this stuff, right? The purpose of this prompt is just to get a simple start on a Next.js project that's just going to have one singular page that we can actually render in. Because the purpose of this video, as you guys remember from the last video, we were talking about the architecture of the project. So we're going to use Next.js, and then we're going to use Supabase, right? And while this is, I'm going to let this work, and actually I'm going to expand my camera a little bit here so you guys can see me a little bit better, because I'm going to go over some stuff. So over here on the whiteboard, I don't have a ton of space on the whiteboard, but this is what we're building right now. We're building the www.vibecademy.ai site, right? And this site is just going to be, it's not necessarily going to be static because there is going to be functionality in it, but for the most part, it's going to be very, very simple, okay? So it's just going to be this one, www, and then we're also going to create another Next.js project. And we're not going to do it in this video. We're going to do it in another one, because that one needs to be structured much differently based on the requirements that are actually needed. I should have set this with dangerously set permissions. That's on me. But I just kind of want to watch it as it goes. But you guys can see it's installing dependencies and stuff, so it's working exactly as we need it to work. So we're going to have this www, and then as you guys know, we're also going to create another Next.js project that's going to be the Learn dashboard. That's what I'm going to call it. So just Learn. So Learn dashboard, and then the www, and then these two UIs are going to be connected to Supabase. And you guys are going to see the creation of all of this. And I want to do it one step at a time so that you guys can see and kind of go through the process that I'm going through of, okay, like you guys are seeing that this www.VibeCademy.ai project is being created right now. All I had to do, drop in a prompt from bridgemind.ai, and now I'm off to the races, right? So while this is working, I actually want to get a little bit ahead, okay? Because to be able to get this up, I actually want to get it actually hosted, okay? So to get it hosted, we're going to host it on Vercel. And I want to make sure that this video doesn't get too long. We're already 5 minutes in. I want them to be very short and digestible. So all we're going to do is we are going to go over to Vercel. And I think I already have an account. So Vercel. And we can now go over to add new, and you can just do project, okay? So you just do add new project, and then this is going to, you can connect it to your GitHub, okay? So you can connect it to your GitHub. You can see that it's already connected to my GitHub, and what we're gonna do is, as soon as this is done building here on the left, all we're gonna have to do is we're gonna test it really quick, because sometimes there can be some issues, so we're just gonna make sure that we have everything running, that we can do an npm run build, that we can actually launch it on the correct port, which is gonna be port 3000, and we'll just confirm that it is running and it is working, and then we'll deploy it to GitHub, and then all we have to do is then deploy it to Vercel, and Vercel is going to give us a URL to be able to test it. We're not going to hook up the domain yet. That's going to be in another video, but right now the goal is, hey, let's get this project created, let's get it pushed up to Vercel, and let's get a nice URL, and it's just going to be a singular, literally just a singular landing page. That's all we want, right? Because you just have to take the next step. And I think with a lot of these prompts that are going to be on bridgemind.ai, they're going to be that next step, right? It's not going to be prompts where it's like super, super complicated. It's going to be prompts that are just like kind of bite-sized, right? So this one, I mean, it is kind of complicated in terms of, I mean, if we go back to the prompt here, just so I can kind of go over it a little bit so you guys can understand how I structured this. So it creates a Next app at latest, which is going to use the latest version of Next. And then it sets the project name, and then it sets TypeScript, Tailwind, and then src directory with an import alias of @. That's just, you know, a programming thing that you can use that, you know, to be able to do that, you can just do @. It's very nice. Definitely like it. And then the install ShadCN dependencies. Then I also do Lucid React, which is good. Then here's the project structure, and I want to talk about this a little bit just because this is the structure that I like, and people use different structures, okay, for Next.js projects. And I personally, there's a difference between app router and pages router, and I personally like to use pages router. That's just how I like to use it, okay? And I'm going to explain that right here. So in your source project, okay, there's going to be components, and components is obviously where you put, if you're familiar with React, that's where all your components are going to go, okay? So you can see inside of the components directory, you're going to put UI, and that's where some of the ShadCN components are going to go. And then you also can have things like providers, and providers are like state management, okay? So theme provider is state management in terms of, like I said, we're going to integrate light mode and dark mode into this project, right? So that theme provider is a state manager where when you click that button, it's going to manage the state of what's in that, I think it's in local storage in this case, but that's going to be very important. That also goes in components. Then you also have a lib directory, and some of your utils are going to go in there with the theme script. But remember, a lot of this is going to change because to get started, we just wanted it as simple as possible. Then inside of pages, which is probably the most important directory in your Next.js application, because this is where all of your pages logic is going to go, okay? There's two files that are very important, okay? It's the app.tsx here. It's like underscore app.tsx, and that's underscore document.tsx. And next is an SPA, which is, it's SPA, okay? And it's a single page application, okay? That's what SPA stands for. And what that means is that you have a bunch of code that's actually going to be routed through this app.tsx file. So the app.tsx file is essentially the entry point to that SPA, okay? And the document.tsx file is also very important because that's where things like fonts, that's where things like different title headers or different imports at the document level are going to go. So that's also an important file. You can, you know, look it up on ChatGPT after, but those two files are really important. And then you have your actual index.tsx and how it works, okay? And I'll kind of, you know, just, I got some space over here, okay? So in the pages directory, when you have an index, okay, like when you have index.tsx, that means that if your URL is VibeCademy, right? Let's say, you know, VibeCademy.ai, right? That's the URL. Well, that means that the index.tsx page that we're building right now, that is literally just at the root, this page is going to be accessible just at VibeCademy.ai. So this is going to be that index.tsx page is our homepage of the site. So that's actually really important, okay? And if you added in, let's say, a page called learn, right? Then that would be at learn.tsx, and that learn.tsx would be accessible at VibeCademy.ai/learn. Okay, that's how the pages router works. I hope I explained it like okay. And I can show a little bit better how that works. But that's definitely very important to understand. Then your styles. So because we're using Tailwind, what's nice about using Tailwind is that you just can import Tailwind into this globals.css file, and then you can set like CSS on the global scale. Okay, so this is like your only CSS file that's going to be in the application, and that one's going to import Tailwind, and it's going to import any other like elements that we want at the global scale. You also have a public directory. You have your components.json, Tailwind config, and then the TS config, okay? So very, very like simple structure. Okay, so it now says that our project is fully configured. So now is the part where let's actually see if this works. I don't want to close that tab because that tab was important, but let's just open this up and let's cd into let's cd into VibeCademy, and you can see that I'm in my desktop, and all I have to do is cd into VibeCademy, and then if I do an ls, you're going to see that VibeCademy-UI project is now there, right? So we're going to be able to now cd into VibeCademy-UI, and then now what's really important is can we actually run an npm run dev, okay? That's really important. I want to see if this works. Looks like it is ready, and if it just goes and is a landing page, then this is fantastic. It works perfectly. So it says that there's an error. Let's see here, Tailwind. Looks like you're trying to use Tailwind CSS directly as a post CSS plugin. The plugin has moved to a separate. Okay, so this is Next.js 16.01. So there could be some potential differences here. Let's just drop the error in, and all you have to do is click fix this. So with every time, like even if you use the same prompt, you're not necessarily going to get the same response. Like if you guys use that prompt, you're not necessarily going to get the same error that I just had, okay? You're going to get potentially a different error, or it's going to work on the first try, depending on what model you use. But in this case, we got a small error, and what's nice about keeping the project small and breaking it down into like bite-sized chunks is that we know that there's not a bunch of complex logic or complex setup inside the application. Most of our errors are going to be very, very simple to fix because the project's so small and so concise. So that's going to be really nice. Okay, so that looks like that is in now. Cannot apply utility class border are using CSS rules or missing reference. So we're also going to drop this in. But let's let it fix here. It says that it's restarting the dev server, so we'll close this. Let it restart. Using 3001, so it looks like 3001 is now going to have the update. Oops, so I dropped prototype in there. It's all right. So there we go. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we're still getting an error here, and sometimes it's actually good to, like for this, right? We're using Opus, but now the thing is that I want to change the model, okay? I want to change the model. I want to change to something a little bit faster because there's now going to be like a decent amount of like small errors like this that we just want to fix quickly. So I'm going to switch to the Haiku 4.5 model because that model can go super, super fast, okay? And it's going to be able to easily index the application and fix any problems that we have, okay? So that's super important. Also, let's now open up Cursor. And I want to take a look. I want to open up the project. So now if I go to my desktop and I go to VibeCademy, we can take a look at this project, okay? So if we open up the editor, we can actually see our file structure here. So let's toggle this, and we can go to VibeCademy UI. And here is the actual project that's been created. So you guys can see that everything's been created according to how we asked it to be created. You guys can see the pages here, exactly what we talked about, app, document, index, perfect. Let's go to this. And let's just continue allow and go here and see if this is now running. Kill the task running on port 3001. So, wait, actually, kill the task running on port 3000. I think it was 3000. So there is a little bit of a refresh. I don't like it when these here are managing when they're actually managing the dev. Like if you have Claude and it's Claude, you're not gonna be able to see the logs. was just one thing that I'm not a big fan of. So let's cd back into VibeCademy UI, and let's do an npm run dev again. And yes, I do want to kill that. Okay, unable to lock, that's fine. Okay, let's do npm run dev, and let's see here. All right, so port 3000, let's try this again, see what errors kick up. Okay, so we're getting this error, border, that's fine. Fix this error. And then, actually, okay, so here's what I'm going to do, fix this error, and then I'm also going to do an ultrathink, because ultrathink significantly improves Claude 4.5 Haiku. So let's see if we can work that out, deliberating. Okay. Okay. So let's let it do its thinking. And this is just a simple error evaluating Node.js code. It's in the globals. CSS file just doesn't like a couple things in there. So we'll fix that. And then as it goes for the actual deployment to GitHub, even though this isn't technically ready yet, while we are waiting, I'm actually going to launch Visual Studio Code real quick, because I really like the UI for it. And I'm going to open up that VibeCademy UI folder, and I'm going to go to this here, and here I can actually deploy the initial commit. So I can just do initial commit for this, and I'm going to do yes, publish branch, and yes, it's going to publish a private repository to my GitHub for VibeCademy UI, and that's going to show up, and then that's what we're going to do to get this configured. Let's check out on port 3001 here. Okay. Okay, looks like this is like a sticky issue. So let's try this. Let's open up Cursor, and because Haiku couldn't figure it out, sometimes it's nice to throw it in a different model. We're going to try Composer 1, throw this in there, fix this error. And what you guys are seeing is, you know, there's always going to be, like, this is what development is, and this what vibe coding is that, you know, AI does have pitfalls, and AI is going to make mistakes. But the great thing about this is that you can use AI to now fix AI, okay? So when you have things that go wrong, when you have things that don't quite work, just use AI to fix the AI and you'll be fine, okay? Okay, checking for lint errors here. Okay, verifying the final CS file. Okay, so let's now refresh. Okay, perfect. All right, so that now works. You can see that we have an index page that literally just says, welcome to VibeCademy UI. That's all we want, okay? So that's all we wanted, and now that that's fixed, and so Composer 1 did one-shot that, okay? Just so for reference, so that you guys know. So I was using Opus, and then I was using Haiku, and sometimes changing to another model built by a different company, it just has like, it's almost like it's a different personality, okay? So here that VibeCademy UI has already rendered into Vercel, so all we have to do is click import, and then once you click import, it will literally just say, hey, here's your project name, it's gonna be here, root directory, and all you have to do is click deploy, okay? So once you run deploy, it's going to run npm run build, and sometimes something that's good to test is, for example, let's cd into VibeCademy UI on our local machine, and VibeCademy UI, and then you can run what's called an npm run build, okay, and this is going to build it, and I just want to make sure that there's no errors, and there were no errors. I wasn't thinking that there were going to be. So here, looks like there was an error when it was running here, so you guys can see that it threw an error while building. So even though it didn't throw an error when it was developing locally, it did throw an error when we were building it in Vercel. So all you have to do, drop in and just let it know exactly what happened. Running npm run build worked locally, but it failed when deploying to Vercel. Figure out why this happened and fix it. So we're gonna run that there. Click on textbooks first. Okay, so that's Whisper Flow. So one thing that's really nice about Whisper Flow is that, oops, sorry about that, is that you can actually open up Whisper Flow, and Whisper Flow keeps a documentation of everything that you say to it, okay? So Whisper Flow here, you can say that I have a history of everything that I've said, and I can just, if that doesn't work, then I can just drop it in, And I'm also going to give it reference of me running it locally as well, so it can see, okay, this is what happened when he ran it locally, and then I also have the logs when it was running in Vercel, okay? And what you guys are seeing is this is just as authentic as possible, okay? Like this is the natural vibe coding development cycle. You guys can see that I'm running into issues, I'm fixing them, I am giving it reference, and there's just, this is like kind of normal, right? So it looks like that finished, and I wanna make sure, like let's now redeploy, okay? So we have these things now. So let's redeploy here, and let's see if that works. So type class is not assignable, so this is going to try again. So let's actually back out. Is this now a project? That's the one thing that I don't know for sure if this has already become a project or not. Yeah, I think it's already a project. Yeah, so here, so I think it auto builds. So you guys can see that, that's the Vercel.app that it gave, but it looks like, so this is how it works. As soon as you deploy to your main branch, I connected it to that specific branch in GitHub, so you can see source main. So when you push there, it's going to automatically push it. And it looks like that build did work that time very quickly. So let's now visit, and you guys can see here that yes, it did work. So in 21 minutes, we were able to structure this Next.js website and deploy it on Vercel to a Vercel domain. In the next video, we're actually going to start structuring this, but that was just a short-sized 20-minute bite of getting this repo here actually set up and configured the way that we want it to then scale the project. So that's where I'm going to stop for today. There's going to be another video tomorrow where we're going to actually kind of move this to the next level. But hope this was helpful to you guys. Again, if you have not already liked and subscribed, make sure you do so and join the Discord. But with that being said, I will see you guys in the future. Thanks so much.